The Tecno Phantom X2 Pro features premium specifications as well as a unique portrait lens. While the lens is the highlight of Tecno's marketing, is it otherwise a smartphone worth considering? Let's take a look at the big picture to see if it's the best combination of telephoto camera performance and flagship smartphone features, or if it's a one-trick pony that should be left alone. The Phantom X2 Pro has an unusual appearance. For starters, it has a curved display, which is typically divisive. This curved display, on the other hand, is a prime example of form over function. While the curved display may appear sleek and futuristic, it causes many accidental touches when using the phone, which can result in a frustrating experience for users. A common example of this is when you're scrolling through social media and accidentally tap on a post you didn't intend to view. Another example is when you minimize a video on YouTube and your finger accidentally closes the video before it finishes. A case could solve this problem. However, the Tecno included one does not cover the phone's side rails, so this issue may still occur. While curved screens are available on many high-end smartphones, the Phantom X2 Pro's design appears to be more prone to accidental presses than the Pixel 7 Pro and the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Aside from that, the phone has a hole for the front-facing camera, which is now standard on most Android smartphones. In terms of materials, the front glass is Gorilla Glass Victus, and the phone's frame is aluminum. If you choose the Stardust Gray color, the back cover of the X2 Pro is made of plastic. An eco-friendly edition with a recycled plastic back cover is available as an option. It's great to see Tecno stand up for the environment with their smartphones. The size of the camera system on the back of the phone is one of the most noticeable aspects of the design. Large smartphone camera systems have been around for a while, but the Phantom X2 Pro's takes up nearly the entire width of the back housing. The Phantom X2 Pro, unlike many other high-end smartphones such as the iPhone 14 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, lacks a camera system in the top left corner. Because of the system's large size, the cameras are presumably located in the center of the phone. Finally, the design does not have an IP rating, which means it is not officially water or dust resistant. Water resistance is a significant compromise, especially given how common it is in many modern smartphones. The Phantom X2 Pro's design is adequate. However, it would have been preferable if it had chosen a flat screen and an IP rating instead. Wireless charging is another feature that appears to be missing from this phone, which is a modern convenience we're sure to miss. The Phantom X2 Pro has a Full HD Plus display, whereas other high-end smartphones in the same price range typically have QHD or QHD Plus resolution. Many Tecno smartphones feature FHD Plus displays. Fortunately, the Phantom X2 Pro has a dynamic 120Hz maximum refresh rate, so it can adjust the refresh rate depending on what you're doing to save battery life. If you want the smoothest performance, you can configure your settings to lock the display to 120Hz. It has a 6.8-inch display, which is more than enough for playing games and watching movies without much compromise. Even though the display isn't QHD, I haven't noticed any difference in day-to-day use. The difference in refresh rate between 60Hz and 120Hz is more noticeable than the difference between FHD Plus and QHD. The average consumer also does not notice subtle differences in display. The only drawback it may have is that it is curved. The Dimensity 9000 chip from MediaTek is used in the Phantom X2 series. It is an octa-core chip with a 4nm process and a clock speed of 3.05 GHz. In addition to the chipset, the Phantom X2 Pro can have up to 12 GB of RAM, which is more than enough for a high-end Android smartphone. On paper, the chip is similar to processors like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 found in the Galaxy S22 Ultra. The Phantom X2 Pro performs admirably in everyday use. When you open multiple applications or perform intensive tasks, the phone does not lag. When the chip's performance was tested with gaming, the phone stayed relatively cool and was only slightly warm to the touch. There was no strange stuttering or performance issues because the phone always felt like it could keep up with the game. In terms of benchmarks, the Phantom X2 Pro outperforms other chips such as the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and the Tensor G2 chip. The Dimensity 9000 received a Geekbench single-core score of 1232 and a multi-core score of 3746. The same benchmark test was performed on the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the Pixel 7 Pro. Both phones scored lower on multi-core than the X2 Pro, with the Galaxy S22 Ultra scoring slightly higher on single-core. Even though it lacks a Qualcomm chipset, the Phantom X2 Pro keeps up with other flagship smartphones and is a solid performer in everyday use. Now it's time to talk about the unique selling point. The vast majority of high-end flagship smartphones have triple camera configurations. The Phantom X2 Pro follows this trend, but it has a special feature. The X2 Pro is the first smartphone with a retractable portrait lens. According to Tecno, the telephoto camera allows for professional-looking portrait shots with more natural optical bokeh. Furthermore, the telephoto camera on the Phantom X2 Pro has a 50-megapixel sensor, allowing it to capture fine detail. However, the number of megapixels in a smartphone camera isn't everything. The Phantom X2 Pro produces overall warmer portrait photos in the sample photos I took. When taking the photos, no filters were used. Aside from color temperature, the Phantom X2 Pro captures more natural portraits. Finally, the Phantom X2 Pro achieves slightly better bokeh around the subject's edges. Face retouching is one of several software features available for portrait mode shots on the phone. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can use software to retouch specific features of a person's face. The phone also allows you to alter certain parts of a person's body for photos if one desires. Overall, the telephoto camera is the phone's standout feature for a reason. It takes clear and realistic portrait photos, whereas other smartphones rely heavily on computation to achieve the bokeh effect. The Phantom X2 Pro is ideal for portrait photography. In terms of software, the Phantom X2 Pro is powered by iOS 12, Tecno's skin on top of Android 12. The skin has distinct features and a straightforward design. iOS 12 comes with symmetrical icons and a variety of themes for your device to choose from. Lightning multi-window, for example, allows you to minimize app windows and have them open on top of other applications, similar to overlapping windows on a desktop computer. Smart Panel, which provides easy access to functions such as screen recording, switching between applications, and enabling additional features, is another useful feature for power users. However, the Android skin has some flaws, one of which is the animations. Scrolling on the Phantom X2 Pro can feel sluggish at times. I put this to the test by comparing it to the animations in One UI 4.1 from Samsung. Both phones were only running Chrome and had their adaptive refresh rate settings turned on. Each phone was also placed on a table to avoid interference from accidental touches. The animations on the S22 Ultra were noticeably smoother and faster. iOS 12 has room for improvement in terms of animation responsiveness and speed. If you find the animations bothersome, you can turn them off in the accessibility settings. Even though iOS 12 has some useful features for an Android skin, it's the minor details that prevent it from being a fully polished experience. Fortunately, those issues can be addressed with future software updates, so hopefully we will see those improvements soon. When using the Phantom X2 Pro, one thing that stood out was the battery life. The phone has a big 5160 mAh battery. When combined with the fact that the Phantom X2 Pro lacks a QHD display, this certainly contributes to the battery life it provides. More pixels require more power, and the display is the most power-hungry component of any smartphone. The X2 Pro can easily get through a day of moderate use. The Phantom X2 Pro has a battery life of 2 days when used lightly. During my review period, the phone's battery was at 60% at the end of the day with light usage such as social media browsing, checking email, watching YouTube videos, and listening to music. This brings us to standby time. When leaving the phone on overnight, the X2 Pro lost only 4% battery over the course of the night. Along with the large battery, the X2 Pro supports fast charging up to 45 watt, which can be useful in situations where you only have a short time to charge. That's not as fast as some devices, but there's a trade-off. Charging faster stresses the battery and reduces its overall lifespan. The battery life on the X2 Pro is a pleasantly surprising feature of this phone. It won't leave you with much to complain about. If you want a capable telephoto camera, long battery life, and solid performance but are willing to forego some features found on most flagship smartphones, the Phantom X2 Pro is a good option. Other smartphones, on the other hand, can take excellent portrait photos while also providing features like wireless charging, water resistance, and more. Despite lacking some essential smartphone features, the Phantom X2 Pro is aimed at a niche audience seeking the best portrait photos possible. Whether you should purchase this phone entirely depends on what is more important to you in a daily driver smartphone.